good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. This is Marius Nazare.
I'm Chris Mulry.
And we are on vlog number 3 for the London Property Podcast. This week we are going to start off with the news, very interesting news regarding stamp duty. So I've discovered an article from Centre for Policy Studies, CPS, and they've basically done some research in regards to the impacts of stamp duty. They do mention that stamp duty is actually the second most unpopular tax after inheritance tax, and they kind of branded it as tax on mobility and aspiration. So obviously there are big discussions in the industry and in the UK regarding stamp duty, and the fact that it, definitely for London, it really stops a lot of people from actually being able to purchase a property or get onto the property ladder. This research they've conducted, the CPS, obviously suggests that increasing the threshold for the stamp duty from 125 to 500k would obviously allow a lot more people to purchase property, and they estimate that a 1% decrease in stamp duty would actually, it would bring around 20% more transactions in the industry. So that's interesting. On the flip side though, they do talk about increasing the tax charged for overseas buyers to 3%, which is quite interesting. So they do talk about the fact that yes, more people need to get onto the property ladder, and we can do that by obviously increasing the threshold that stamp duty is charged, but at the same time they're saying we're going to tax the overseas buyers a lot more, which is quite controversial, I guess, in a way, because let's face it, a lot of the investment coming into UK property, whether it's for development or for buy-to-let purposes, comes from overseas investors. So it'll be interesting to see how that balance can be kept. Yes, we do need more homes to be built. We do need more people to be able to get onto the property ladder. But at the same time, a lot of those properties are actually built by money coming in from overseas investors. So that's quite an interesting article, and it kind of ties in with obviously what article Chris is going to talk about in regards to stamp duty.
Yeah, so I've got because firstly we are now going to be having a general election on the 12th of December.
Yes.
This is an article that was published several weeks ago with what Boris Johnson pledged regarding stamp duty, or at least the speculation around it. And because we're having a general election, the manifesto isn't quite out yet, but I thought I'd quickly loop back and go into what Boris Johnson's likely to do on stamp duty and how it might kind of affect things. Firstly, increasing the stamp duty threshold to £500,000. So at the moment, for first-time buyers, they've got no stamp duty to pay up to £300,000, and then there's a small amount to pay between kind of 300 and 500,000. And what that has done to the marketplace is meant that it's booming at the bottom end. From like anywhere in London, you can't really buy anything at kind of 250,000 in London, but all the way up to 300,000, 500,000, the market's been booming. Developers have actually gone into that section of the market, not particularly around Central, but like on the outskirts, building these developments for first-time buyers, and they've just been able to sell them super quickly. So it's really given a boost to the market. Now, if Boris Johnson changes the stamp duty threshold to 500,000, not just for first-time buyers, but for anyone, it's going to do a similar thing. We're going to see very little things on the market below 500,000 if this is kicked in. So although it could be a good thing to start off with, quickly it would make the market very unaffordable, unless there was some kind of surcharge for kind of buy-to-let investors, which may or may not still be in there, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Another policy that is supposed to have is reducing the stamp duty rate from 7% down, from 12% down to 7%, the top end tax. Now, this was put into place by George Osborne at the start of 2016, I think it was, or the end of 2015. And the top rate of this tax is very high, and a lot of people have just decided not to move, not to sell. They prefer to rent, you know, because you can get a few years worth of rent for the top rate of this tax.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make any kind of financial sense for the government to be having this top rate tax, because they're not really receiving any income from it. It's kind of slowed down the top end of the market, shown in the tax receipts. So that would be good to kind of loosen up the top end of the market. So you can see what he's doing is working on the bottom end to make it, you know, to get the people from the bottom, voters from the bottom and the top end as well. Sellers, and this is the controversial one, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing is up for debate, but sellers are to pay stamp duty instead of buyers. This is a rumour that's kind of been put out there. So this will be very interesting. Obviously, anybody who's thinking about holding off to sell, if they know that this is coming down the tracks at some point, you might want to kind of get in before Boris Johnson gets into government and makes these changes. But no doubt it will definitely free up the market, in my opinion, and quite a lot in terms of, you know, on the buying side, it'll free it up a lot. The availability of supply, I don't know, maybe it would be more constricted.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd really want to sell if I was going to be clobbered with the capital gains tax and at the same time a massive kind of stamp duty.
Yeah.
So as soon as we get the manifesto and we have a look, you know, maybe we should go through both manifestos and see what that's got in store for property. But that's the news for the week.
Yeah, very interesting, all relating to stamp duty, but definitely will stamp duty is a big thing that will obviously shift the market in a certain way, and it definitely needs to be looked at, I think. Now we're going to talk about sale of the week that we have recently agreed, well, last week actually.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic property, and I'll let Chris introduce it because it's something special.
It's a Victorian property right next to the Albert Hall. The interesting thing is it's on the corner of the Albert Hall and overlooking Hyde Park, so it's got a dual aspect. So out the reception room you're looking over Hyde Park and the Albert Memorial, and then on the side of the property where there's another reception room, you're directly overlooking the Albert Hall. You can literally see all of it. At night time, it's all lit up. So this is something that we would call a trophy asset.
Yeah.
You know, specifically Russian, Chinese, unfortunately, like many British, and you know, they can't afford to buy this kind of thing. So it's effectively a 3-bed/4 bedroom, and it was on the market for $6.5 million. And yeah, we've just put it under offer last week. It's a beautiful property. Ceiling heights are about 4 meters high, and it's that good that Harry Potter, whoever made the Harry Potter movies, they've done the filming in there last week for, I presume, a few scenes for the next movie. So really interesting flat. We'll put it in the link below so you can see what we've sold. So that was the deal of the that was the sale of the week.
Sale of the week that we agreed. So excellent. We've been trying to get that sold for a while. So here we go. All right. Question of the week. What are the advantages of buying a short lease property? Now, this is a very interesting one, which kind of bolts on to what we discussed previously in terms of leasehold, freehold, share of freehold. So Chris is going to briefly mention why, you know, buying a property which is on a short lease isn't necessarily a bad thing, as I guess a lot of people think. So
Well, short leases have many negative connotations, and most of the time one of the questions a buyer will ask us when they call in to inquire about a property, particularly if it looks a good value flat or house, is what's the lease length? What's the lease length and what are the service charges? If it's got a short lease, most of the time I'm not interested by. But the thing is, they're missing a trick, right? Because for all of those people who hang up the phone and say I'm not interested, right, there's a smaller pool of buyers to go after that property, and most of them have to be cash, okay? So from the seller's point of view, they're selling into a narrower market, which generally means they're going to have to negotiate a little bit more on the price for somebody who wants that. So straight off the bat, you've got an increased opportunity to be able to secure yourself a better property. And then also there's an arbitrage. When you go to extend the lease, there's a second round of negotiation. So particularly now, because we're in a buyer's market, you're buying the property, you negotiate a discount. When you go to do the lease extension, you're also negotiating with the freeholder effectively in a buyer's market. So that lease extension cost that you would normally have to, in a rising market, the freeholders kind of, squeezing you for as much money as they can get. This time around, you and your professional surveyor, who we can advise to a point, are driving the negotiations in your favour. So in effect, it's a great time at the moment to buy a short lease flat. You want more information about it? Marius, there's a website that you use.
So there is obviously a lease extension calculator, which we sometimes use to estimate roughly how much it would cost to extend the lease. So you can put in basically the years remaining on the current lease, the premium price of the property in that, with that lease, and it would give you an estimated range, kind of a lower end range and high end range of how much roughly it would cost. Obviously it's just a desktop valuation, so you have to bear that in mind essentially, and you can use that. We'll put the link in the description, but obviously you have to agree to the terms and conditions for that, so bear that in mind.
Yeah, just a caveat for the lease extension calculator online. There's a caveat in there anyway. When you click on the website, small print comes up saying this is only a desktop valuation. Yeah. So just bear in mind, use it as a rule of thumb to give yourself an idea. But if you do actually put an offer and you go to purchase a property, we'd recommend that you actually do get a proper RICS valuation done with regards to the lease extension before you get to exchange of contracts.
Yeah, that's fine. Perfect. All right, so now on to the final section, hot listing of the week. We have an incredible 2-bed apartment in W2, Saxon Hall. I was really impressed when I walked into the property for a few reasons. First of all, it's a probate sale, and normally those kind of sales are a good deal. It's in a brilliant block, really well maintained. It's actually like really modern. You wouldn't, it looks like it's been built a couple of years back. So excellent block. The location is fantastic. You're in between, Notting Hill Underground Station and Queensway. You've got Hyde Park, literally minutes walk from the property. Prime location. The layout of the flat itself is brilliant, right?
1,000 square feet.
Yeah, 2-bed, 1,000 square feet. Just very clean layout. It does need refurb. It is on a short lease. It's got 51 years remaining on the lease. But once you've refurbed that apartment, you extend the lease in that location, you've got some positive equity in that property. So I, for one, I've been excited to get this listing for a few weeks now. I kept asking Chris, have we heard anything back from the market appraisal? Now it looks like we've got it, and it's just a great deal. I think Chris would agree with me on that one.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the interesting thing about this property is it's on one of the best streets in W2 on the north side of Hyde Park. One of the best streets. And it's probably one of the most run-down flats, with a motivated seller. They're not here to mess around. They want to get it sold. And the lease extension, it needs a lease extension because it's got a 51-year lease. So what better? The best block on the street, or one of them.
Yeah.
The views are incredible. It's south-facing. And you've got the refurb, which obviously you can do it to exactly how you want to have it done. You've got the ability to add value, and also when it comes to doing the lease extension, that's great as well, because you're going to hopefully be able to drive a good price on the lease extension as well. As like I said earlier, we're in a buyer's market, so this is exactly the kind of flat that people want, and we look forward to next week.
Telling we've you sold it.
Telling you that it's gone. Yeah. Like Marius said, look, we do cherry pick these listings.
Yeah.
So the deal of the week, when it comes available, generally speaking, by the time we actually get the blog released, there's already offers on it. We might have to. We might have to get these blogs out a bit quicker. But you know, that's
no, we do, and it's been the case with the other listings that we talked about in the other two vlogs. Yes, we're on number 3 now, but generally speaking, the other ones we talked about those as hot listing, and then by the next vlog they're already sold within a week and a half. So we'll put the link in the description so you can have a look, but this is a great property, great deal generally speaking, so we're excited to be working on that. And
that's why you shouldn't just listen to the vlog. You should call us or direct message us and speak to us before we know these things are coming available. Before you look at the
absolutely
look at the vlog,
we can
to us.
We can do things. We love stuff like that, which we sell it before it even comes into the market. So hot listing of the week. It's a 2-bed flat. We'll put the link in there, and you better move fast. Otherwise, this concludes vlog number 3 of our weekly series. I hope, we hope that you've got a lot of value out of this, and we will continue to improve. Your feedback and comments are welcome. What we can improve on, it's still early days. We're by all means not really, we haven't really done this for a long time. Although I have been vlogging myself, but it's more of a personal kind of journal thing. We look forward to hearing from you. If you need advice to buy in prime central London, Chris and I are here to help, to give you advice and get you in the door early with these kind of hot deals that we have going on. So see you next week, guys. Stay tuned.
See you next week.